As I was reading chapter 381 and wondering how Guts is going to get out of his existential funk, the algorithm gods brought this snippet from a Samurai Jack episode called The Aku Infection to my attention. As the name implies, Jack gets possessed by Aku's evil essence that threatens to overwhelm him. To cure himself, he goes to look for Buddhist monks, when suddenly a fight ensues as Aku's evil essence takes control of Jack. Then the head monk sneaks up on him and hits him from behind with a magic item. That puts him to sleep. Next thing you know, he is tied up and forced to face the evil within himself, which he does. When I saw this, I thought, would be interesting if Diaba did this too. The nun helped save Saska's sanity with the Corridor of Dreams ritual after all, so maybe there was something in Eastern spirituality for Guts as well. And now we are in chapter 382, where Guts is locked in a literal Buddhist stupa and left to face the evil within himself or die. Holy shit, even I can't believe I called it. Chest thumping aside, I'm not saying that this is Daiba's intention, or what I stated above could and will happen. I'm just exploring the options. I don't know if he's trying to help Guts. Perhaps he just wants to lock him away and put him in a place that he thinks could hold him and where he could die on his own without food or drink. He has admitted that even if he killed Guts, he does not know what will happen. So we can see him behave like a cornered man, and even if he is evil, which there's evidence that he is, he'll try to help Guts because he just does not know what to do with this calamity that he brought upon himself. Recall that he was one of the few people who brought Guts to Kushan lands with his own hands. But this still does not answer why a stupa though. Before we answer that, let's first understand what a stupa is. It is a Buddhist structure that is typically used for pilgrimage and meditation. They come in various shapes and sizes, from the more circular dome structures from India and Sri Lanka to the more triangular East Asian versions of them. The stupa is a symbolic representation of the Buddha's being, and therefore it is a map for enlightenment itself. Essentially, what I'm trying to say is that you have to transform your own being to the Buddhas with this map. And if I'm not wrong, the places of worship of other faiths too are similar maps for inner transformation. In Berserk terms, you can understand this in Shirky's dialogue with the priest and Fanis. When Fanis asks why the mantras of the Holy See do not have the kind of power that Shirky's do, Shirky tells her that a church is a sanctuary where people communicate with angels and spirit. A magician constructs this sanctuary within her own mind, thereby echoing what the actual and proper function of the church or any other place of worship is, as a representation of what you have to build within yourself and not outside. Now, I've been to stupas before. I've noticed that one of the more East Asian versions of the stupa, talking specifically about a pagoda in this case, puts a dome inside the main structure. From what I was told from being in this particular stupa is that only higher level of meditators were let into this central dome, which brings in the role of the stupa itself as a possible place for uninterrupted deep reflection, which Guts will be doing lots of. Now, understanding the parts of the stupa and its functions may shed light into the why stupa question for us. The dome of the stupa is called Anda, which literally translates to egg. The egg is a major symbol in Berserk and in spirituality around the world. In the world of Berserk, it is a wish-granting fetish that grants the user their power. So far, every known usage of it has been to a demonic end. So the chain of correlation suggests that it is a dark fetish meant for granting dark wishes. Let's keep this egg symbolism in mind but pin it to the side for now. Now, as is visible, there's a dead tree on top of this stupa. What one does not realize is that an integral part of the stupa is something called the Sokshin, or the tree of life. It in fact makes the center of the stupa. In Tibetan versions of the stupa, a tree is cut, then its branches and bark are removed. After the whole process is done, it is carved, sculpted, colored, and the final form looks something like this below, which is placed vertically inside a stupa. We see that in chapter 382 that the tree is emerging from the top center of the stupa and that it looks dead. One description of the role of the tree of life in the stupa that caught my eye is the following passage. It stated that an important element in every stupa is a tree of life. It is placed in the central channel of the stupa. It is positioned during a ceremony or initiation where the participants hold colorful ribbons connected to the tree of life. Together, the participants make their most positive and powerful wishes, which are stored in the tree of life. In this way, the stupa is charged and starts to function. The above paragraph is why I don't think that guts being inside an egg-like structure with this wish channeling function associated with it is coincidental. On a little side note, a couple of years ago, I made this statement that this panel from the 97 adaptation, which is based directly from Miura's manga, makes it look like Griffith is trapped inside a crimson behelit. And now Guts is inside a structure, part of which is literally called an egg, and has a wish granting function on top of it. If you know anything about visual symbolism used in media, understand that they rarely are unintentional. Miura knew what he was doing with this panel, and I'm sure Koji Mori knows what he is doing with this stupa reference. Now, after all those factoids, I want to jump right into deep speculation territory. If you try to relate this paragraph to the chapter in Berserk, the participant is who? Guts. And what is his most positive and powerful wish? It would be to embody one of the two dominating desires within him, the desire to protect Sasuke. But there is no reason Miura or Koji Mori have for sticking with the word positive here, especially since we do not know what the author's own personal understanding of the stupa was and what he himself wanted to say. For Miura and Mori's purposes, the dome of the stupa being an egg, which is a clear proxy for the behelit, would be all the symbolism he wanted for his purposes. But what makes me lean towards Guts' current confinement leading to something positive is that, on the one hand, the behelit is clearly a dark fetish that grants your negative wish and turns you into a demon. The stupa is the opposite. A positive, powerful wish gets stored in the tree of life in the center of the stupa. That makes it start to function. Now, it may act as a positive counterpart to the behelit, the first known one. But there is no way of knowing if this is the case till Guts gets out of the stupa. And that too has a big question mark over it. So, Guts can also sink into his other powerful desire, which is to kill Griffith. And he has a literal demonic entity within him that is constantly baiting and manipulating Guts to do just that. And I don't think the beast will miss this opportunity, as it gets endless time to dismantle Guts and take control with no one to stop him. This possibility playing itself out can be seen in Miura's track record of depicting the profane version of the sacred. The demon Ganishka's double reincarnated form is called Shiva by Diaba, as he destroys the world, even though he has nothing to do with the actual Shiva himself. The Tower of Rebirth too is an actual real-life place for sacred rites. And what happens in this place? At the bottom of the Tower of Rebirth, in Griffith's cell, dark spirits come to greet him and call him their prince. The god hands visit him too, and Griffith underwent no rebirth, at least not within the Tower of Rebirth itself. Perhaps one could say, in Berserk, this structure was already defiled, all thanks to it being a place for torture and imprisonment, and for the dead and haunted capital of Geisric sitting right under it. So it could be that the same does not apply to the stupa, which is on a strip of land that only higher monks are allowed to enter. The panels in chapter 382 with the bodies of the dead monks scattered about vaguely suggests a practice that was unique to Japanese and Chinese Buddhism called Sokushinbutsu, where a monk determined to reach enlightenment in the current body itself deliberately entombs himself and fasts unto death. The practice in both symbolic and literal terms was the sacrifice of the physical for awakening. Whether or not the monk attained enlightenment was thought to be known from if their body did not decompose past death. It is said that most of these attempts resulted in failures, perhaps because of the humid climate in Japan, which is not suitable for natural mummification. But it is said that some of the attempts did result in mummies that met the criteria. My guess, and I explicitly want to categorize this as my guess, is that the dead bodies of these monks near the stupa are failed attempts that were made inside it. Guesswork aside, what I can state for sure is that this is the first time that the three major symbols in Berserk, the Tree of Life, the behelit or egg, and the sacrifice symbol are present together in one ritual. And since the appearance and arrangement of these symbols is unlike anything that has happened before, I can see an outcome that has not been seen before as well. And let me make a case for it. When apostles and humans joined forces to fight the double reincarnated Ganishka, Diaba described apostles as twisted resurrected monstrosities that met that at the brink of karma. Brink means extreme edge, and you can look at the word karma as either causality or in more Hindu and Buddhist terms as your actions, thoughts, beliefs resulting in its eventual fruits. There is also the added twist of conscious and unconscious karma here, but that perhaps is another topic. So one interpretation of the phrase is they met their death at the extreme edge of everything they had been, thought and done. Then in chapter 381, Diaba uses the phrase burdened by karma for Guts. One interpretation of that would be Guts is burdened by everything he has been, thought and done. His faith in his sword and therefore himself has been destroyed. His whole torturous journey that started after escaping the eclipse has been reset, and his beloved, whose sanity has been so painstakingly stitched back, has been taken right back to that same starting point by that very same demon that harmed her body and soul and threatens to do so again. He put his whole body, mind, soul, and more into it, and it has all been undone. What can he do when the demon and god of this world is his own personal torturer, who will gleefully and endlessly undo anything he does? Yes, Guts is certainly burdened by his karma. Who wouldn't be? And while his psychological state is similar and yet different than apostles and god ants before their transformation, he is certainly teetering towards an extreme and unprecedented edge. When Ganishka plunged himself into the man-made behelit, he absorbed all the evil in the abyss into his body. This evil was transmuted by Femto with the redirected dimensional slash from Skull Knight's sword into the world spiral tree. Evil was transmuted into light. After we are shown this impressive panel, Miura compares the world spiral tree to the same tree from the Sutra, that is Buddhism, where the sage meets enlightenment, which links the tree above the Buddhist stupa as very likely having that same potential. Buddha achieved enlightenment under the Bodhisattva tree after all. Now, in my last video, which you should check out, I argued how, like Ganishka, Guts too had been absorbing evil into his body for a while now, and that currently he has the same level of evil in his body as an apostle, without actually having become one. My best guess is, and I could be wrong, is that the entombment in the stupa with these three major symbols in Berserk, namely the spirit tree, the behelit, and the sacrifice brand, in what looks like a ritual, which is not overtly magical mind you, will likely result in the same transmutation of evil absorbed in Guts' body into light or goodness, and make the yet dormant tree atop the stupa bloom. Now, recall how I said that the stupa is a symbolic representation of the Buddha's being, right? Well, the tree of life in the structure of the stupa is supposed to represent the Buddha's awakened spine. The spine has all kinds of spiritual significance in many spiritual, cultural, and religious traditions. With that in mind, I have two interpretations of this image, and here's one of them. This is from when Guts first donned the Berserker armor. The wound that Slan gave Guts looks like this from the back. And Ganishka, transformed into the world spirit tree, looks like this. In my last video, I argued with receipts how the wound on top of Guts' chest clearly resembles a fissure. A fissure opening up in your heart is an important step in the sacrifice ritual. The chapter where Ganishka becomes the tree of life is also called fissure. Do you see the verbal and visual similarities associated with the cracks on Guts' chest and back and how they look like the branches of the tree of life? Guts' tree, if we are to call it that, looks like it has many branches, but it has no stem. And so he is rootless and adrift. All this heavy speculation aside, I do not know if and how Guts will transmute this evil within himself into light. I do think that whatever will happen inside the stupa will not be anything fancy. I doubt that we'll see some kind of new entity inside it. I want to do another video on that specifically, about what Guts will need to transcend this pit of despair, if possible before the release of the next chapter. So, will the stump of a tree with the egg at the base of its roots and a branded hero trapped inside it bloom into the tree of life or the Quilpothian tree of death? Born from the tree of death himself, can Guts end up being the one that makes bloom the tree of life? It all depends on Guts' wish. Let me know in the comments if Guts will come out from inside the stupa, and if so, how will he do so? And what will be different about him once he steps out? I hope you liked that, and if you did, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Till next time, fellow strugglers.